You're not lazy. You're addicted to comforting your potential. If you give me just 1 hour a day, I'll show you how to rip that addiction out by the root and build a version of yourself you don't even recognize, stronger, sharper, unstoppable. But here's the catch: this hour, it'll feel like hell before it feels like freedom, because this isn't about time management. It's about self-respect. Most people will scroll past this and go back to their excuses. But if you show you how 1 hour every single day becomes the compound interest of greatness, I'm talking to the person who's sick of the fake smiles, who wakes up already tired, who knows deep down they were meant for more, but just doesn't know where to start anymore. You've tried routines, productivity hacks, vision boards, and yet you still feel stuck. That's not your fault. You were never taught how to command your mind. But what if I told you the secret to transformation isn't in a 30-day challenge or some millionaire morning routine, but in choosing just one brutal hour a day to do the hard thing you keep avoiding? 1 hour when your friends are watching Netflix, 1 hour when your body says, stay in bed, and you get up anyway. This hour is sacred, not because it's long, but because it's where you break the contract you made with your fears. Let me tell you a truth most people won't say out louding. Discipline isn't a personality trait. It's a war, and you fight it daily. That 1 hour, it's your battlefield. You win there, you win everywhere. Years ago, I knew someone who wasted 10 years waiting for right time to start. They thought they needed confidence to take action, but what they didn't realize, what no one tells you, is that action comes first. Confidence is a receipt, not a requirement. So they stayed small, invisible, afraid, until one day they woke and couldn't look at themselves in the mirror. That person was me. And I remember staring at the ceiling one night, realizing I had slowly become a stranger to my own dreams. I was alive, but not awake. That's when I made the deal with myself: 1 hour a day, no matter what. At first, I used it to move my body because motion changes emotion. Then I used it to learn, to build, to speak, to write, to fight for the version of me I'd buried under doubt. That hour didn't mean better overnight, but it made me dangerous to my excuses. Every day I showed up, I built something no one could see: a standard. And from that standard came momentum, the secret weapon most people miss. Momentum beats motivation. You won't always feel like it. But if you do it anyway, you rewire your identity. You don't need more motivation. You need momentum. Here's why that matters more than you thinking motivation is a myth. When you're in pain, it disappears the moment life punches you in the gut. It's fragile like smoke. Here 1 second, gone the next. But momentum is earned. It's built in the dark, when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when even you aren't sure it's working. It's what happens when you show up anyway, especially on the days when you don't want to. And that's where the hour comes in. One focused, committed hour a day is not just about discipline. It's about generating force. You might feel stuck right now, like you're drowning in your own life, like you're surrounded by dreams you can see but can't touch. That's because you're waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a lie. You won't feel ready ever. The brain protects you from discomfort by feeding you the idea that someday you'll feel like doing the hard thing. You won't. That hour is the antidote, because when you move before you're ready, when you act in spite of the fear, you begin to break inertia. And once you break inertia, you generate momentum. At first, it's tiny, like pushing a car with no gas or fill. You won't see results. You'll want to quit. But here's the secret: every rep counts. Every repetition in that hour adds invisible weight to your self-belief. That's the power of compounded effort. It doesn't show on day one, but by day 30, you're not the same person anymore. You're a machine with scars instead of excuses. And people around you might not notice it right away, but you will. You'll start making promises to yourself and keeping them. You'll stop bailing when it gets uncomfortable, because you'll know something they don't. Momentum is your edge. It's what gives you fire when everyone else is flat. It's what makes you dangerous to your old patterns. That 1 hour, it becomes a spark that sets everything else in motion: your health, your purpose, your peace. So stop waiting for motivation to knock on your door. It won't. But if you move first, if you show up when it's hard, you'll realize the true thing: you were never stuck. You were just sitting still. Start moving. Build the fire. Let momentum do what motivation never could. Confidence is not something you wait for. It's something you build. And if you're sitting there thinking you need to feel confident before you take action, Let me wake you up. That's the lie that's kept you small. Confidence doesn't fall out of the sky. It's not gifted to you by some perfect childhood, a support system, or the right environment. It's not in your DNA. Confidence is the receipt you get after you do the thing you were terrified of. It's the quiet, steady result of walking through fear, not avoiding it. You don't become confident by thinking about change. You become confident by doing the exact thing you think you're not ready for. And that's why this 1 hour a day matters more than anything, because inside that hour, when you choose action over avoidance, you're training your brain to trust you. You're proving to yourself that you keep your word, that you show up when it's inconvenient, that you move forward when you're afraid. And that proof, that's where real confidence comes from, not hype, not affirmations, not fake positivity, proof. Because confidence isn't loud, it's quiet certainty. It's the stillness that says, I've been here before. I've done hard things. I can do this too. You think the people out there crushing their goals have some magic belief in themselves? No. Most of them started scared. They had shaky voices, racing hearts, and doubts that screamed louder than ambition. But they did it anyway. And every time they showed up, they earned a little more belief. That's the game. The hour becomes your lab. Every day, you run the experiment again. Can I do what I said I would do, even when it sucks? And every time the answer is yes, you're laying bricks in the foundation of unshakable self-respect. That's what you want, isn't it? To believe yourself again, to look in the mirror and feel proud, not ashamed. Then stop chasing the feeling and start chasing the evidence. The courage comes after the first step, not before. Action is the spark, confidence is the flame. So when your mind says, I don't feel ready, hear it and then do it anyway. Because every single time you take action without permission from fear, you become the kind of person who no longer needs permission at all. The 1 hour a day rule isn't a cute productivity trick. It's a battlefield. And on this battlefield, you're not fighting time, you're fighting yourself. You're not just squeezing in a little self-improvement. You're facing down every voice in your head that says, why bother? It's too late. You'll never change. That hour is where your comfort zone comes to die, and make no mistake. Comfort is seductive. It whispers safety, but it delivers regret. That hour isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel like resistance, because that's how you know you're finally pushing against the ceiling you've been trapped under for years. Most people want change without the pain. They want transformation without tension, but transformation demands sacrifice. And the first thing you sacrifice is the habit of running from discomfort. In that hour, you confront the version of you that wants to stay small, and you make a different choice again and again. That's why this hour isn't random. It's not about whether you're journaling or running or building a skill. It's about the fight to stop letting your mind be a democracy where fear votes. It's the training ground for mental toughness. You don't become disciplined by accident. You become it in the repetitions, in the refusal to negotiate with your weaker self. You think champions are born with iron will. No, they forged it one brutal decision at a time. Discipline is learned in the trenches. And that's what this hour is, your trench. It's you against you. And some days you'll lose, but you show up anyway, because eventually that hour isn't something you dread. It becomes sacred. It becomes the place where you prove to yourself that you're not a victim of your emotions, that you don't need to feel like it to do it, that you don't answer to comfort anymore. You answer to a higher standard. And once that standard is set, it bleeds into everything. How you eat, how you speak, how you work, how you show up when no one's watching. People will notice something different about you, but they won't understand because they weren't there in the hour. But you were. You know exactly what it cost. And you'll never settle for less again. Transformation doesn't happen in a lightning bolt. It happens in the quiet, in the repetition, in the unseen battles you fight when no one's clapping. You want change to feel dramatic, like a movie montage where everything shifts in a week. But that's fantasy. Real change is slow, gritty, and invisible at first. It doesn't happen in one leap. It happens 1 hour at a time in the shadows, when your old self tries to drag you back into the familiar hell you've been calling normal. You think it's not working because there's no applause, no fireworks, no instant gratification. But that's the test. The real work happens when you're planting seeds in the dark and nothing seems to grow. That's where most people quit. They don't fail because they weren't capable. They fail because they expected to feel progress before they actually earned it. But you're going to be different. You're going to keep going. You're going to stack one disciplined hour after another until the momentum becomes undeniable. You'll start to notice it first in small things. You'll get out of bed without hitting snooze. You'll keep promises to yourself without fanfare. And that subtle shift, that's your identity changing transformation. Not some Instagram worthy before and after. It's the moment you realize you don't crave validation, you crave standards. And the moment that clicks, everything changes. You're not waiting to be saved anymore. You're becoming your own damn hero. And no one will see the thousands of decisions you made in silence. No one will know how many days you wanted to quit, but you'll know. And one day, when everything starts to move, when your body, your mind, your life aligns, you'll look back at those hours in the dark and you'll smile, because that's where the real shift happened. Not when you felt like it, not when it was easy, but when it was boring, lonely, painful. And you did it anyway. That's the price of transformation. That's why it's earned, not given. So if it feels like nothing's changing, good. That means you're in it. That means you're doing the real work. Keep showing up, because the world will finally see what you built in the dark, and they'll call it sudden. But you'll know better. It wasn't sudden. It was earned, one unglamorous, unshakable hour at a time. That 1 hour a day doesn't just build your body, your skills, or your business. It builds something far more powerful, self-trust. And if you've ever broken a promise to yourself, you know what it costs. You know what it feels like to not believe your own words anymore. To say, tomorrow I'll start, and already know you won't. That pain, that quiet erosion of self-worth is what's really keeping you stuck. Because if you can't trust you, nothing else matters. But here's the truth no one tells Yug: self-trust isn't found. It's forged. And it's forged in the fire of that one sacred hour a day where you do what you said you would do, especially when you don't want to. That's where the healing begins. That's where your new identity starts to form, not based on dreams or hopes, but on proof. Every time you show up when it would have been easier to quit, you lay a brick in the foundation of a person you're proud to be. That's what changes your life, not external validation, not praise from others, but the quiet moment where you realize you can count on yourself again. And that trust becomes a force, because now when fear shows up, when doubt whispers that you're not enough, you've got evidence stacked behind you saying, watch me. That 1 hour becomes your contract with yourself, a vow, a declaration that you are done breaking your own heart. Because let's be honest, no one's betrayed you more than you have. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to fix. And this is how, not with giant, unrealistic goals, but with daily integrity, small wins, hard choices, follow through. Every single day you keep your word to yourself. You start walking differently, talking differently. You stop looking for shortcuts, because your shortcuts, you already know the path. It's the one paved with sweat, silence, and self-respect. And once you start to trust self again, everything opens up. Decisions get easier. Chaos gets quieter. Success, it stops feeling impossible, because now you know deeply that you've got you. And that's the most powerful thing you can ever have. Not motivation, not talent, trust. So show up for that hour like your life depends on it, because in a way it does. So now you know the truth. They lied to you. Change isn't reserved for the lucky, the rich, or the naturally disciplined. It's earned in the dark, carved from pain, one unrelenting hour at a time. If you've listened this far, it means there's still a fighter in you. It means that beneath the frustration, beneath the doubt, there's a burning spark that refuses to die. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. It's not coming. You are not stuck because you lack time. You are stuck because you haven't made yourself the priority. 1 hour a day is all it takes. Not 10, not 5, just 1. 1 hour where you stop scrolling and start showing up. 1 hour where you train your mind to obey instead of negotiate. 1 hour where you stop listening to the voice that says, I'll start tomorrow, and do it now. That hour is not just a habit. It's a revolution. And you're not doing this for likes, applause, or validation. You're doing this because you are done living a half-life, done being ruled by your excuses, done watching your potential rot inside you. If you want self-respect, if you want clarity, if you want to feel proud of the person staring back at you in the mirror, you fight for it. You earn it. And you start today, not next Monday, not after the next crisis. Now, this is your call to action. Get a notebook, write it down, choose your hour, guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. No one's coming to save you. But here's the good news: you don't need saving. You need a standard, and you need to show up for yourself without compromise. Do it scared. Do it tired. Do it when you're uninspired. Because every time you do, you're writing a new story. And one day someone will ask how you did it. They'll want your secret. And all you'll say is this: I gave myself 1 hour a day and I never look back.